Welcome to The Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here today because we're going to unpack a truly fascinating medical pilot study. We're looking at a research paper that tackles a massive, deadly global health issue. And honestly, the wild part? It tackles this incredibly stubborn problem using a highly unexpected, deeply misunderstood, and, well, slightly taboo compound.
To really understand the stakes here, just take a look at this staggering number, 5 million. That's the estimated number of worldwide deaths caused by smoking every single year. It's a devastating epidemic. And the tragic reality of treating tobacco addiction is that standard therapies, things like nicotine patches or standard prescription pills, they actually fail more than 65% of the time. For a massive majority of heavy smokers, the standard tools just aren't working. It really highlights a desperate need for some completely novel treatments.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Part 1. An unconventional scientific idea.
So because standard treatments have such a massive failure rate, scientists had to start looking outside the box. And that brings us to psilocybin. Simply put, this is the active hallucinogenic compound found in what most people call magic mushrooms. For this study, it was clinically evaluated as an adjunct, which basically just means a helpful add-on, to an addiction treatment program. Now, it's really important we strip away the recreational stigma here for a second. Scientists have actually been super curious about using classic hallucinogens for treating addiction since way back in the 1950s. Early research actually showed real promise for treating alcoholism, but heavy regulatory restrictions eventually shut all that down for decades. It's only recently that the scientific community has been able to reopen this door.
But, that history raises a really practical question, right? How do you rigorously and safely test a hallucinogen on smokers? You can't just hand a compound like this to someone and hope for the best. Researchers at Johns Hopkins University had to design a highly structured, medically sound experiment to pull this off.
Which brings us to Part 2, the experiment and the participants.
Now, this was designed as an open-label pilot study, meaning everyone involved knew exactly what was being administered. There were no placebos here. And we are not talking about casual smokers. These 15 psychiatrically healthy volunteers, they smoked an average of 19 cigarettes a day for over 31 years. With an average of 6 failed quit attempts, traditional methods had completely failed them. They were, for all intents and purposes, truly stuck in their addiction.
So how did the team actually structure this? Let's walk through this rigorous 15-week timeline. Weeks 1 through 4 were all about preparation and cognitive behavioral therapy. They weren't just taking a compound, they were really preparing their minds. Week 5 was the target quit date, and that's where they received a moderate dose of psilocybin. Then in week 7 and 13, they actually had the option for a higher dose. The absolutely crucial point here is that this wasn't just casually giving people drugs. Not at all. It was a deeply supported therapy process with strict medical supervision. During the actual psilocybin sessions, participants lay down on a couch, wore eye masks, and listened to a specially curated music program, all while trained staff supported them.
Okay, let's look at Part 3, the astonishing results. The contrast you're seeing here is just massive. Remember how standard therapies typically show success rates of less than 35% at the 6-month mark? Well, this pilot study, an 80% success rate. Yep, 12 out of the 15 participants successfully stopped smoking entirely. That is a radically different outcome compared to normal treatment statistics. And, of course, the scientists didn't just take the participants' word for it when they said they quit. These results had to be verified by biology. Researchers used breath carbon monoxide and urine katina tests to objectively confirm the results. Basically, they proved the abstinence using strict, undeniable biological markers. No cheating possible.
Now, obviously, whenever we discuss an active compound, we have to talk about safety. The study tracked side effect very closely. Participants did experience some temporary fear or anxiety during the active sessions, maybe some modest increases in blood pressure and heart rate, and some mild next-day headaches. But, and this is a major takeaway, there were 0 serious adverse events. None. All the side effects were time-limited and easily managed by the on-call medical staff through simple interpersonal support.
Part 4. Why did it work?
So, from a clinical perspective, we know it worked safely for these folks. But the real mystery is, why did it work? Now, what's really interesting about this is that psilocybin didn't just act like some chemical blockade for nicotine cravings. Instead, participants reported a profound shift in perspective. It shifted their orientation toward the future. Suddenly, the long-term benefits of their health completely outweighed their immediate desire for a cigarette. It fundamentally changed their life priorities and values. It strengthened their belief in their own self-efficacy, like their actual belief in their ability to quit.
And amazingly, over half the participants reframed quitting smoking as a sacred or spiritual task. And this breakdown right here brilliantly illustrates just how impactful this was. 87% of the participants, that's 13 out of 15 people, rated their psilocybin session as one of the top 10 most personally meaningful and spiritually significant experiences they have ever had in their entire lives. I mean, let that sink in for a second. A clinical treatment for a smoking addiction was ranked right up there alongside the birth of a child or getting married in terms of profound life moments.
Moving on to Part 5, the sober reality and inspiring future.
Now, as absolutely incredible as this sounds, we do need to ground ourselves in the sober scientific reality so we don't exaggerate the facts here. Looking directly at the study author's own cautious words, they note that the open-label design doesn't allow for definitive conclusions, but the findings suggest it's a potentially highly effective adjunct. It is so important to remember that this was a really small pilot study of only 15 mostly white individuals, and there was no placebo control group. So while it definitely proved safety and feasibility, much more extensive randomized research is absolutely needed to prove causality.
Which really leaves us with this final, incredibly provocative question. Could a psychedelic compound actually help end the global smoking epidemic? This small study offers a remarkable glimmer of hope for millions of people trapped by tobacco addiction. Science is continuously evolving, and sometimes profound medical breakthroughs come from the exact places you'd least expect. I highly encourage you to read the full study linked below, share this explainer to spread the word, and actively follow future trials in this space, because they might one day save millions of lives. Thanks so much for learning with me today.